Written by Murphy here. This is a book review. Burro Genius by Victor Villasenor. This is the first book I've read by Villasenor perhaps. This one is a memoir. He's written quite a few. Burro Genius was published in 2008. Now, I had him recommended. I believe Reign of Gold was recommended, but this is the one that I could lay my hands on first, so I read it. He is a Mexican-American. His parents were born in Mexico, but he was born in California, so he is Mexican, but a first-generation Mexican-American person. This is told from the perspective of a child for the most part. It begins, he does a really good job of building tension, of talking about the feelings that he experienced. This is a memoir, right? The feelings that he was having, and then talking about what happens, right? Very well done. He discovered as an adult that he had substantial dyslexia. As a child, which is what the book is about, he didn't know that. He just knew that it was really hard for him to read. In fact, as a Mexican American in Southern California, he experienced a lot of cruel prejudice. The teachers that he had were unconcerned that he couldn't read. He found ways, as people who struggle with reading often do, he found ways of coming to the sidelines and avoiding ways that the teachers would notice. But even if they had noticed, they sometimes they did, right, over years in school. And they didn't care. It was okay with them that he be stupid. There were a lot of prejudice in his school environment, which is really, really sad. And he tells it really well. He doesn't tell it with pity. Now, this book is told, as I said, from the perspective of a boy. He does a really good job as an adult author of going to the perspective of that child again. This book reminded me of the book series The Great Brain, which I read as a kid, which is very straightforward, and the world of the child was the whole world in the story. This is the way it was for Burro Genius as well. It's more than his school, though. His stories about his family are so beautiful. I am in love with his family. His father and his mother and his brother who, very sad, his brother died. You know this at the very beginning, but the story of how it happened and how he experienced it as a younger brother, and his adventures that he had. He's like, well, I'm going to do this, and we're going to do this, and the lessons his family taught him about who he was supposed to be in the world and how the world works. Oh, lovely. I would really recommend this book for a child to read, for a 8-year-old reader. It could, there is just a few cuss words, if that bothers you. It was really great. The sentences were very distinct. They were not convoluted. I mean, a good sentence with lots of clauses can be a thing of beauty. That's not how Victor Villasenor writes. They're very direct, and so it's very immediate. This is how the prose works. And the story of what happened to him and his family is really interesting. That's how things were at that time. It's telling me about life in that place for the kinds of people. And it's close to where I live. To hear about it, that's down there in San Diego. How it was for looked a little bit up. It appears that it is an extraordinarily bloody war in Mexican history and world history. 1.5 million people died in this revolution, and there were only 15 million people in Mexico. So 1 in 10 people in this country died. Oh my God. What a tragedy. I absolutely need to know more about this period in history. It turns out this author does tell more about that. I'm going to read more about this. I'm going to read more of books by Victor Villasenor, more about this Mexican Revolution. Let's see. So he had his learning disability he had to overcome. He had the prejudice that was in the culture in America, in California, towards Mexican people. His family, his brother's death, the animals. There were some beautiful, magical things that happened. Now, there were magical, like, that probably happened. You know, some of the things in magical realism, you're like, well, really, in 100 Years of Solitude, the main character is a ghost that they chain to a tree. Like, yeah, that's a great part of a story, but did that really happen? But no, Victor Villasenor, this is not what I would call magical realism. This is just magical real life. So I found it charming, the way he described the world around him, the way his family related to him. It's a beautiful story. I am going to read more of him. I'd love to know what you think of this story. Have you read it? Have you read anything else by that author? Is there other books that you'd like to, that it reminds you of, that maybe you'd like to talk about? Tell me what you think. Let's continue the conversation.